show up. You be playing these games for too long. Check your phone, girl, hoping you don't ignore my company. I could've sworn the night before we were having fun. Now you're loading up a screen like you're gonna play all these games on me. But baby, don't you try to play me. I'm out of laughs, but please don't save me. I'm out of time, so please don't play me. Controlling my emotions, pressing my buttons all day. Got me running all around,
Up on your joysticks,
right, left, up and down. Girl, don't you try and play me. Controlling my emotions, pressing my buttons all day.
Okay. Hey, fact or fiction, I loved you. Oops, what's true? Nobody left but us two. I crush hard like a crumple, so don't play me. Don't play me for another young fool. I'm tender, but I'm still tough too. Mark me off as your number 2, and I'm top notch in this belt loop. Hold on, baby, you gone with a win. Guessing it all depends. How much we want each other, hug each other, see how the chips fall into the honey butter. Wasn't nothing but a money grabber like Mr. Krabs. Was it in your plans to fall for me and then hit the dash?
I could've sworn the night before we were having fun. Now you're loading up a screen like you're gonna play all these games on me.
but baby, don't you try to
Play me. I'm out of laughs, but please don't save me.
Don't do it.
I'm out of time, so please don't play me. Controlling my emotions, pressing my buttons all day. Got me running all around,
up on your joysticks,
right, left, up and down.
up and down.
Girl, don't you try and play me.
Don't play me.
Controlling my emotions, pressing my buttons all day. Got me running all around,
Up on your joysticks,
right, left, up and down.
up and down.
Girl, don't you try and play me.
No, no.
Controlling my emotions, pressing my buttons all day.
Okay, the lights are down. That means we're about ready to start. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here tonight. We are very excited this evening to have you, to have this wonderful discussion about our Black heritage, our history, our Black future. But let's start this off because I know we're a little bit behind. Ladies and gentlemen, right here, we have the Shadow Walkers. Please put your hands together for them.
Till victory is won.
Once again, we are the Shadow Walkers Band. We'd like to thank LaMarche for helping us. You can sit down. We're going to do a little bit of jazz, a little bit of singing tonight. We're going to have some fun tonight. to do a little bit of Miles Davis, a song that was called All Blues. Mr. Jesse on saxophone, Mr. D-Ron on guitar. Now here's one I'm sure you have heard before.
Can y'all feel it? Huh? Let me hear some. Let me hear some. Little Mr. Magic, Grover Washington.
By the way, wait a minute, break it down. So you know that's Jesse, D-Ron, Moron, Tony. My name is Pastor Norris Evans, but I don't know who you are, so on the count of three, I want everybody to shout their name out. 1, 2, 3. I didn't get it that time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, you know what? Why don't you find me on Facebook and friend me and tell me your name, right? We're glad to be here with the city of Corona to celebrate Black history, to talk about subjects that sometimes people don't want to talk about. But when we sit down and reason together, good things can happen, right? Here we go. We're going to bring our vocalists up. We're going to do one of the old traditional classics. I'm sure you're going to like it. This is Miss LaMarche, one of the greatest singers in the high desert. Yes, I did say that. No offense to nobody. Yeah. Y'all having a good time? Oh, cool. I am too.
Check, check. Check 1, check 2. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing all right? I'm as helpless as a king up a tree, and I'm clinging to. I can't understand. I get misty, just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000 violins to play. Or it might be the sound of that music I hear. I get misty the moment you're near. I'm too Thank you.
Singer that graced us with his voice, but we're going to do an instrumental version of this, and it's called Never Too Much. just the beginning. The best is yet to come. Thank you for having us. We are the Shadow Walkers Band, and we just enjoy celebrating Black History Month with you. And you know what? Can I hear you guys sing this with me? I just want you to. Come on, I know we got some singing. Let me hear you sing it. Come on, one more time, real loud. Let's wake up the neighborhood. God bless you tonight.
Let's give another round of applause to the Shadow Walkers. So we've been doing a lot of promo work and communications for this event. We have a lot of cables to move around before we get to our discussion. So if you guys don't mind taking a look up here, we're gonna play our 5-minute promo that we produced for this event, just to kind of give you like a teaser into what this discussion is gonna be about. So give us a moment. We'll get the show started soon, but for now, Caleb, go ahead and cue that for me.
She worked hard for us to have what we have. And so did my dad. Even to this day, I work hard to prove to her that I'm gonna make it.
I don't know how to. Being black is me. that's a screwball question.
I think we have a lot of joy. You could see it like in a church service, like we just do things with a lot of joy despite whatever circumstances might be present. To me, Black culture
Is being able to have tradition
Greatness, beating the odds.
and how hard it has been and the challenge that we faced to get to where we are today.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like a loaded thing. Like, who knows exactly what culture is?
It's not a simple question.
Black culture
Can mean so many different things. You know, it's just part of a lived experience. It's something that
goes back a long way.
Slavery and
the history of how we came to be here.
having to start literally a lot of times from the bottom.
People use the word resiliency a lot, and there's like a component of sadness to me in there that like we have had to be so resilient.
That's the reason why we work, right? That's the reason why we grind. For some of us that have kids is, try to make a life, not just everything given to them, but just make it a little bit easier to succeed towards their goals. So.
My father really pushing for us to be, better than he was.
My grandfather, he showed I think our family what hard work is and kind of where it can take you.
He wound up being a cook, the tradition. He wound up being a chef in the service. So he, for 20 years, and wound up going from 20 years there to McDonnell Douglas as the chief of security.
We came here in the 1820s. We landed in Texas as slaves.
My grandfather was a slave in Arkansas, and the owner slept with one of the slaves, and that's how my grandfather was born.
As soon as slavery ended, the women in my family, they took to becoming the help. So taking care of those same families, their children.
That don't mean that the opportunities wasn't there, it's just the opportunities was different.
While there's so much history and beauty there, and I still have a lot of pride in my family, having that experience, like I want us to have a say in if we want to stay in that role or if we want to aspire to something else, not something greater, but like something else.
So I had a chance to speak with my grandfather. He lived to be 108 years old. So I had a chance to speak with him when he was 104 about the history and what he went through. So there's a lot of pride in the name of the Brandons, and we stay strong when it comes to doing what we have to do to be successful.
And I was blessed to have two parents that kept me focused on my goals.
A mother who is so accepting of other cultures, who is a white woman, and a man who loves my mother with all of his heart, no matter what kind of race. I think like that's a beautiful thing in itself, but also a really big learning experience
And that was an important thing that I always wanted to prove to my parents. Thank you for what you did for me. And I want to show you that your efforts in putting together a program for me and my brother and my sisters to be able to be successful and to go to college, something that they weren't able to do. And we were able to achieve that. So I'm really proud of that.
To like summarize it, really, we need to like take what we've learned and like accomplish the dreams that we have and know that, like, you know, our ancestors' dreams that were, you know, like the dreams that were deferred, like if we're in the position to achieve our dreams, like to fight for it and to fight for others to be in their own position.
Song, of course, was by Ella Fitzgerald, who presented an orchestra from the famous Savoy Ballroom in the heart of Harlem.
Segregation in public schools was not legal.
Considers white and Negro.
Escorting first-grade Negro children into the school building.
I have a dream. When we turn not from each other or on each other, but towards one another, and we find that we do not walk alone. That's where courage comes from.
My name is Mayor Tony D'Addario. Really need to get this band for one of our city council meetings. It will certainly liven up the mood, that's for sure. I wanted to welcome you to the City of Corona's Community Conversations and the Black History Month panel. Oh, apparently I got to stand back. There we go. This evening, we'll highlight the triumphs, challenges, and rich cultural heritage of our Black community. This is an opportunity to build relationships and have conversations. Here in Corona, our vision is to create a community where everyone can thrive. And moments like these provide the perfect opportunity to create an environment where we can connect and build meaningful relationships. I want to thank the moderator and the panelists that'll be up here in a moment for being here tonight, because this event would not be possible without their leadership. I'd also like to take a quick second to recognize the city council leaders that are here with us tonight. I believe all of them are here. So Jim Steiner, Wes Speak, Tom Richens, Jackie Casillas is here. There she is. As well as our city leaders that are here with us tonight, our city manager, chief of police, our fire chief, and a lot of department heads and directors for our city. This evening tonight will be moderated, and I wanted to take a quick second to introduce our moderator. He's the owner of Public House Creatives. He's the founder of the Lila Project, and he serves his community as a Parks and Recreation Commissioner. Please put your hands together for Mr. Dominic Ferretti.
Guys, can we get one more round of applause for the Shadow Walkers? They were great, right? So I want to start off by thanking everyone for coming out tonight. You guys could be anywhere, but you're with us tonight, so I really appreciate it. It means the world to us. It means the world to our panelists. Is there any way I can get the actual panelists to come up one by one? First, can I get Greg Brandon to come up? Yeah, just give them a quick rundown who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Are we on? How about now? Well, thank everybody for coming. My name's Greg Brandon. I am the owner and co-founder of a security consulting engineering firm here based out of Corona. We basically design and develop security programs for America's most critical infrastructure across the country. We lay out those cameras that people are watching you. We're the ones that's designing those things for you. So to make sure that everybody's being watched. But more importantly, I just want to be thankful to be invited to be here and to be able to express some of the things that as a owner and a business leader and a community person that has helped raise a family here in this town, to be able to support, events that the town is having. And coming from Corona, in 25 years, I've seen this town grow. It's diversified, and it's where I think it's a good place to be to raise a family. And I wanted to be a part of something to be able to take the culture of the Brandon history and what we've been through and how we've made it to be able to speak to the public about it. So thanks for having me.
The next panelist, Ryan Grice Mullins, can you come up and tell us about who you are, what you do? I'll just hand this off to you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Ryan Grice Mullins, originally from the Inland Empire. Went to school at the University of Hawaii, played pro ball for a little bit, traveled around. Good opportunity with that. What I do now is police officer with the Chino Police Department, a part of our SWAT team, field training officer, so doing pretty good things over here, and currently living in the city of Corona now with my family. So thank you for having me here, and it's gonna be a good night.
And the next person, I'm not even gonna say her last name. She's extremely talented. She's, Beyonce goes by just Beyonce. Kayla, can you come up? I'm not even gonna say her last name.
Hello, everyone. We're starting off with the hard questions. So my name is Kayla Brooks, and I am currently a master's in public health student at Keck School of Medicine. Previous to that, I went to UCLA, so a little bit of a traitor, so they say. And I have been really trying to apply what I've been learning in school, so I've been working in public health for the last 2 years. First in the nonprofit world, serving Title I schools with free vision care services. And now I'm working at the Inland Empire Health Plan, and I work specifically in healthcare policy and regulatory affairs. So that really has to do with compliance and making sure that those with insurance, Medi-Cal, Medicare are getting the care that they need, and that we're holding ourselves accountable to the standards that exist, and also being innovative to hopefully move us forward to a better future and more health equity.
Well, there you have it, guys. We have an extremely talented and diverse panel. We're going to jump right into the questions. This is what you guys have been waiting for. So we're just going to go left to right. Kayla, we're going to start with you, okay? So I'm going to crank off a question, and then you guys just answer it one by one. And guys, it's tonight, like they said, tonight is about culture and experience. So we're going to share some of our experiences. We're going to share, the nuances of what we do in the Black community, how we do it, and why we do it. So hopefully tonight, you guys can take some gems back home. Hopefully you guys have some conversations for the ride home. But we'll start with the first question. The first question of the night: how has seeing people of color in leadership roles mold you into who you are today?
I just want to start by a quote that my own mentor uses a lot, and that's, "You can't be what you can't see." And so while there's definitely some nuances to that, and some of us can really be innovators, I think that seeing people who look like us, who have similar experiences, gives us like a lot of confidence to be able to do those things. And even more so in the community setting, being able to access those people is really important. And one thing that's kind of stuck out to me as like somebody who grew up looking up to somebody like FloJo, like that was my role model, is that as I got older, I found a lot of mentors and people I looked up to in my own community. And I think that in a way, we're all more so pioneers than we think in our own respective fields, in our own families. So I just wanted to make sure everybody in the crowd knows in a way that you're your own mentor as well to the people coming up.
Yeah, I had a lot of mentors in my life, but I'm gonna bring it right back home and say my biggest mentor is my mom and dad. They're the ones that took the time to show me what color looks like, what confidence looks like, and be happy with who you are. And, you know, the traditional mentors, the college professors, the coaches, and, you know, I played basketball in college, they all did their job as best they could. But really, I want to bring it home and say thank you, Mom and Dad, for truly being a mentor and putting me where I am today.
I think he definitely touched on that. Me, it was the same. My parents. I think it started at an early age. I think that's how you start developing your character. That's how you start developing a path to achieving a goal that you're trying to set or that you're trying to get to, excuse me. So my parents instilled utmost confidence in me at an early age. They taught me being different was okay, especially being a young black male living in the Inland Empire, Rialto, that's where I lived at, and moving to a neighborhood at 5 years old where I was the only black kid on the street. So total culture shock. It was different. I didn't understand it at an early age, but my parents, you know, kept me focused in school, being the only black kid in my classroom. So it was a whole lot of differences so that I had to learn at an early age. But without my parents guiding me and, you know, teaching me the right way that, hey, it's okay, you know, to be different. It's okay to look different. Be true to yourself. That's one of my mom's biggest words to me, quote, be true to yourself. As long as you're doing that, you're going to be okay. So, and like he said, playing sports, coaches, I think, you know, those guys they all have their way, or they all come into your life at the right time to help continue on that path to achieving your goal.
Thank you. Before I go any further, I wanted to, there was actually a fourth panelist. The fourth panelist, he unfortunately got COVID, and so I know he's watching, so I want to make sure I shout him out. His name is Brandon McGee. He's from the city of Corona. Linebacker, played at Centennial, played at ASU, went to the NFL, played multiple sports, played baseball, extremely talented, has sold a film, multiple films, is working on an extremely, it's going to be one of the realest films to come out of this area. If you guys get a chance, go on his social media. His name is Brandon McGee. Google him, look him up. It's a bummer he's not here tonight, but I hope he's feeling better, and I hope he gets well soon. But Brandon couldn't make it tonight, so I just want to let you guys know. I didn't bring that up to start. But the next question is, what about Black culture is so enticing to others, and what makes our culture so valuable?
I think something unique about Black culture is that in the video I said, you know, what is it really? But it's not one specific thing, but it is very multicultural. And so the people, you know, Black people, we come from all different countries, and there's just like a lot of diversity to speak to. And in that also, we're very inclusive of other cultures. And I think that has allowed us to just be innovators in all kinds of fields.
And I second that. Everybody has his culture. If you look at them and ask them, you know, what is good about your culture? Very difficult to answer. But the Black culture goes back so hard and so far and so deep in the challenge that we've had to face from the beginning, you know, to be able to fight for what you stand for and to be here today, even to be at this event. So to me, just the culture of the history of the family, the history of what we went through to get to where we are and where we're headed in the future. And, you know, let's take that culture and let's make that a legacy, you know, for our people and for our families is what we need to do with that.
You know, this was a question that was very different. Obviously, it's a lot of different directions that I think we all could go when we hear this question. But at the end of the day, one of the things I kind of settled on is hope. I know it's, and my meaning by that is, I think at an early age, it's different to, and sometimes hard to kind of see or dream, to see your dream. So with certain people around you, with hope comes with overcoming. It's a lot of different obstacles that you overcome. And the more we see Black people, people of color, people that look like us, achieving those goals, right? It gives young people like me growing up hope. They're like, okay, that person did it, I can do it too. Just like tonight, I'm sure seeing us here on stage, you know, everybody different backgrounds, different career paths, right? It's hope to the next young kid out there, right? So you have 3 people on stage right now. Obviously 4, one couldn't be here, with total 4 different careers, right? But still, you get an understanding as it allows you to dream and see that you don't have to take one path. It don't have to be just sports, or it don't have to be whatever the case may be. It's many different paths we can take. So hope is what I stand on.
What about our culture makes you guys smile or laugh? What could you guys share in terms of like a cultural piece that the audience could, they see, they might not understand, but you guys laugh about it. It's fun, it's funny, it's something you guys talk about at the barbecue or at the cookouts. Is there anything along those lines you guys have? Like, for example, Ryan, when you barbecue, I know you wear white pants and sandals, right? So something along those, is there some gem that you could share with the audience, any of you guys, that just explain, like, there's somebody out there that's like, why do Black people do that? And is there anything that you guys have?
You know, I would say part along that is music, right? So we bring up music, rhythm. You kind of get in the area where we all get together and it's a party. You know, everybody's up dancing, everybody's vibing. I think that's just a natural instinct that kind of comes out of us, part of enjoying each other.
I'll go back a little bit, coming from a cook's family. You know, everybody in my family is the best cook and the best barbecuer out there, okay? Now, my father, you heard her in the earlier clip, that my dad spent 20 years in the Navy as a head chef. Now, he could cook and anything. So anytime we have a family gathering and something like that, it's on. And, you know, he's passed, but in true reality, I'm the best cook that we have right now.
Adding on to that, my family is also the best at barbecue. My brother actually has his own little catering company, and it's named after my grandfather, who is from Texas. In our head, you know, we have the best barbecue. And also wanted to quickly just shout out my beautiful sorority sisters in here. One thing I could say, I am not the best dancer in that group, but they have some rhythm.
Thanks, guys. So this is the third question is, has America tried to quiet the Black community by emphasizing the goal while ignoring our reality?
I'll take a little bit of that one. You know, I think there's a whole lot of people out there ignoring our reality that they really don't want to be a part of our reality. You know, if they truly were to stop and look at it and say, boy, I'm not sure I want to be one of them, you know, with all the stuff that they're going through. But in all fairness and seriousness, I wouldn't say America, I would say a lot of special interest groups have taken on and has prejudged and has put us in categories that, you know, we don't really belong in. And one of the things that pushes me is to be able to show I don't belong in that category, and neither does my family, neither does the other black person sitting next to you. You know, just because of the color of their skin. You know, let's be real here. We can do what we need to do, and we all need to fight for that. So it's important for me to represent and to be able to show that there's not much we can't do, and we need to just continue to raise our youth and support them through sports. I see some people out here that I've coached with, that my kids have grown up with playing in town. They were a part of the other men, black men, you know, we talked to leadership that actually helped my boys other than me. And I want to thank you guys. You guys know who are out there. So thank you very much.
Whenever I saw this question, I kind of like interpreted it more closely towards the history also of the founding of this country and, you know, created for all mankind this like opportunistic kind of view that wasn't attainable for us, and how through a lot of diligence, through a lot of hard work, the work was done to where we have gotten to where we are. And we today, you know, in the last 5-10 years specifically, I can recall a lot of acknowledgement about the types of systematic oppression that occurs in this country. And so I think one thing that kind of stands out to me is that we're in this time of speaking on it, but the part where I would say we need to focus more on is just how do we make that change? What actions can actually be done? It's almost like we're at a little bit of a stalemate in my mind of progress, where we know it exists, but how are we actively working to make a more equitable society, one from healthcare access to, if you're able to get that job, if you're able to promote, if you're able to, you know, get the opportunity that you really are seeking out. Should the color of your skin stop you from doing so? Absolutely not. Is the reality there quite yet? No.
I think it's important for some of us, or most of us, especially in certain positions, to continue to share our experiences, especially with some of our counterparts that's not black. Right? I think it's very important, especially because when you're in a certain group or a certain area, or you're talking to a certain group of people, and they're comfortable with you, they know you, they tend to listen a little bit more to you and understand some of the things that you've been through. I think it's once they know someone, it's a difference between hearing things that's going on and not having a connection to that person or to that group because you don't really know nobody that's going through it or that's been through it, right? But when you know someone on a personal level, it hits home a little different. You know, because hey, I know this person. Like, wow, this really happened to you? Oh, these things are true? You know, it starts getting that ball rolling in your head a little bit. And when you can share those experiences and you have people that accept the experiences that you shared with them, it allows them, hopefully, to tell the next person, you know, like, hey, no, this is it's a real thing that's going on. So sometimes it's tough for us to share our experiences, right? Because we want to keep it balled in because sometimes it was too much, or, you know, just like a trauma, right? A lot of times we don't want to talk about it. We want to keep it balled in, but talking about it, it not only helps us, but it helps those around us. So then now it gives our community a better understanding of what's going on.
Absolutely. Are there any action points you guys could give me that can move the needle in that direction? Is there anything that you guys can think of off the top of your head that would kind of push the needle forward in terms of where we can get as a country? Because sometimes it feels like we're putting a Band-Aid over something that needs surgery. And so is there anything that you guys can think of off the top of your head, that one or two things that might push us that way?
I just think, education and just, things like this event and just reaching out, and like he was saying, just when you get a chance to tell your story, and let people know that, even successful people go through challenges, and it wasn't an easy road to get here. But I think sharing your story and expressing that it's not all negative, there's some positive side to it, but to be able to keep the attitude, it's not poor me, but it's, it was a fight. It wasn't easy to get here. It's a challenge on a daily basis, but you push yourself through it. And based on that experience, I'm going to learn from it and share it with you, and what did I get out of it.
I also want to add on to the education part. I think that through the K-12 education system, there's some improvements. Change can be a little bit slow, but also the point of re-education for people who are already in those roles who, if we're looking at folks who are not necessarily coming into the workforce, there's such thing as training and inclusivity, and also not just leaving it to the other person to necessarily be vulnerable to share that story, but for you to dig in a little bit yourself and to do the work of learning is very important. And for me, that's something I personally believe in. At UCLA, I kind of felt that experience a lot, being 5% of the Black student population, and many of those students were also athletes. I was one of the few who was not, but came from an athletic background, family of athletes, so I understood that their experience was a little bit different than mine, but mine was very much a teach me. And I think empower yourself is a big thing that I would say to allies as well. And that interest and curiosity can go a really long way into making a better environment for all of us.
So the next question, Kayla, I'm gonna let you start this one off. The next question is racism a public health issue?
For me, the short answer would be yes. I think that that's something we could really dive into. But one thing I think it's notable, I feel like whenever we talk about public health, it's almost like a new concept for a lot of people that came out of the pandemic, public health crisis. But when we're talking about public health and racism, we're really talking about just the experience of Black people in this country not being the same as others. And so one thing we talk about in public health specifically a lot is both, instead of racism, we talk about placism a lot. It's a little bit safer, and it is also a very real thing, but your zip code where you live really contributes to your health care outcomes and how early you can detect things. How active your providers are is a very big thing that we're looking at. And so sometimes 6 miles apart, there's been studies that have shown people have a life expectancy difference of 20 to 30 years. And I think that there's a lot of social determinants that we just really have to look at ourselves, look at our city of, is this somewhere that I can exercise? Is this somewhere I could walk to the grocery store? Can I get to the grocery store on a bike? Are the things that are in place for me to live a healthy lifestyle there? And if they're not, we need to work to get that. And a lot of times in Southern California, we're doing, better than some places, but definitely there needs to be some improvements there. And one thing I also wanted to talk about, same thing with the education, re-education, is for us in the current situation of, yes, public health recognizes race as a social determinant of your health outcomes, and yes, that is a goal they're working towards. That slow is not gonna happen overnight. In the meantime, we need to make sure that Black people's health issues are acknowledged, their pain is being acknowledged. So really, it's tough, but learning to advocate for yourself is something that I think is really important for people. And whenever we look at some kinds of hesitancy, it's deeply rooted in our community, but getting those screenings, getting the blood test that your doctor recommends is really important for you to live a whole healthy life and get the most that you can out of this, because we all have one life. And for the providers, there's definitely the ability for re-education and for education changes systematically so that we can provide better, more equitable care.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just shortly, but my opinion on that is just, education for, the Black communities. There's a lot of preventative stuff out there that we just aren't aware of. And, we kind of know we don't want to go to the doctor in the first place. That's the last thing we want to take ourselves to as a doctor. And I believe it's because it's a lack of education that if you're not, you can prevent half the stuff that's wrong with you if you got there early enough. And if there was more education on that in our communities, I think we'd see less of people taking pills or, to get fixed and just going to the doctor every once in a while when they're absolutely really sick. So I think education would help along those lines in the Black community.
Yeah, I think one of the things I remember is, like you say, screenings. So my dad passed away. It'll be 10 years next month from terminal cancer. One of the things that was different for us, my family, is got diagnosed on Christmas Day and only given 3 months to live. One of the things I can remember is he had went to the doctor, months prior before that, and kind of those things wasn't detected. So there's kind of some uncertain things like how, if it's, something that was missed, that was terminal cancer, how in just, months, less than a year, where do we drop the ball here? And you don't necessarily go straight to, well, was his service not quality because, of his race? Those are not some of the things you go, to right away. But, as someone losing a parent, it's kind of tough. You start thinking about a lot of stuff. So, and I can remember, my mom telling me, even when you go to the doctor, when you're sick, dress accordingly. I know as weird as that sound, because you're going to be judged off of the way you look, your race coming in, how are you presentable, even on your sickest days. So, and those are some of the things that I've been to the doctor, with my parents. Sometimes we go and we can't get dressed because it's an emergency. We got to get there, right? Sometimes we can. And the difference of treatment, believe it or not, it is a difference. It's a big difference. So little stuff like that is important. Maybe it shouldn't be that way, but it's the reality. So getting information like that out, possibly better treatment, somebody taking that little extra time to, diagnose you, to look at you, all those things matter. And those things that we don't want to talk about, but can also lead to, presentable stuff.
Absolutely. Oh, well, I'm sure your dad's probably extremely proud of you. Ryan's a stud. He's being modest. The guy, go look at Hawaii. He holds records at Hawaii. He's SWAT. You're doing great things, man. I'm sure he's ecstatic about what you're doing. And like they said, my what was it? The day after Thanksgiving, my mom had a heart attack, and it was just, hey, I got a bad cough. I'm gonna go get checked out. And it was like, hey, no, you had a heart attack, and that spiraled into, nope. Now you need to keep you for a couple of days, into now you're gonna have quadruple bypass, and she's here tonight, by the way. So it's important. It's important, those checkups and those screenings. I've called Kayla in the past. Hey, who should I pick for my provider? I don't know. There's so many of us that have questions, people like Kayla are great resources. But the next question, I personally think that teachers are the most underappreciated people on this planet. Like, teachers are phenomenal, right? So they're underpaid, they're underappreciated. They deal with some of our good kids and some of our bad kids, right? So, but I wanted to ask you guys, what has been your experience in the education system, and what are your thoughts on Black history being taught to students today?
Again, I want to just thank the teachers for doing all that you do, because we got them out of the house early enough so they can go sit with you during the day, because we just couldn't take them all day long. So thank you very much for not only being a teacher, but also the best babysitter out there. Well, my thought is, again, on the Black history, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in school, but I raised 2 boys who have been through the school system. And some of the stuff that they would come home with, I think could be taught a little bit better. To be perfectly honest. I think there's a lot of history that is not taught, in the schools, and Black history that really should come out, and that's part of the education on the other people that are wondering who we are, that are seeing other stuff or not hearing enough about Black folks. So I think it would be important, I definitely am not knocking the school system, but I think teaching, it in a different way and a little more in depth, and give the people that have done a lot of things, Black people in this country, what they deserve.
I feel it's definitely obviously important, right? Because Black history is American history. I mean, it's just like any other ethnicity history, right? It's American history. It's part of history. So it's definitely very important, and not just for Black people to know it, right? Everybody should know it, because once again, you're starting conversation, right? You're starting conversation. You're keeping under, the way different people view things and look at things, and it gives you a better understanding of maybe, hey, what this person has gone through. And a lot of times, in some of those, I remember in some of those classes and some of those history, a lot of times, some Black people have ancestors that's been through a lot of certain parts of those history. A perfect example, my dad, he's older, but, he was from Alabama. So the civil rights movement, all that, he was right there. He was along those lines, kind of going through that. And he talked about some of that stuff, with me, about how you had to be strong. It was something like you've never seen. So his perspective was totally different from, the way things are now. But I was blessed to have, him share those experiences with me that, unfortunately I didn't learn in school, generic version, but not the real version, right? And a lot of times, once we know the real version, that helps us, once again, start the conversation, right? Everything is about conversation and dialogue, right? You have to be able to go back and forth with somebody. You have to be able to take something. You got to be, and that person got, and then you got to be able to give a little bit, right? But that's how the world keeps going, right? That's how we keep evolving. But once something stops, it's kind of hard to pick it back up. And I think now that's what we're seeing. A lot of the Black history being taught in the schools is kind of dying off, right? So we're kind of losing a little bit. So then you get, different history thrown out there that's not accurate. And then you get history thrown out over here. And then now you don't know what's what, so, and that can be a problem. So, but I definitely think it's important. I think we should continue teaching, continue learning, about the history, and not just us, but everybody.
And I really like what you said. I've heard it before, but I truly believe in it that Black history is American history. And so whenever you're sitting in a chair as a student, I loved school as a kid, and I love my teachers. I had a great experience. But I think, you know, whether you want to or not, you're absorbing what you're reading as a kid, what's being said to you. And so not just for us, like I remember thinking, okay, I learned about the slave ships, about the travel, and I just remember everybody looking at me because I was one of the few Black kids in the classroom, and I'm half white. And I feel like sometimes that in itself, like there's some levels of privilege there where I don't get some of the worst things that I have heard like friends speak about, but even there, like got some experiences, but I feel like those stories really informed my peers growing up. And the perspective kind of becomes one of like victims. And if not victims, then we talk about like violence. And so whenever I'm sitting in a chemistry lab at UCLA, I remember, you know, a girl saying, well, I learned that Black people in America, they're all poor still, and that you all live in projects. And that's international education. Maybe that's passing down from family members, but I do think that it's not necessarily what a teacher is teaching, but having curriculum that is actually accurate for children, that is empowering, that is not just stories of slavery and oppression, but also stories of victory are very important. And that conversation is a tough one. I know it's constantly in the media, and sometimes we say, we'll take it there, and then we pull it back, and it becomes watered down, or it just becomes removed. So I just want to make sure that most definitely it's not removed, but one thing we can do is also just having these conversations. Black History Month is every day, but it's also a good like launching point for some to share some of those beautiful stories that we do have of success and achievement, the good with the bad and what we've done.
Absolutely. The next point I wanted to make, I wanted to ask you guys, before I ask you the next question, in terms of my experience in school, same, I agree with you 100%. I think Black history should be taught accurately. It should be taught from a young age. It should be taught to everyone. Everyone should share those experiences because, like Ryan said, lived experience is what bring us together, right? We're able to share what we've been through. Well, when I was in junior high, I went to CFIS right down the street, and I don't think it would have happened today, but then, I was a little rambunctious. I'd speak out of term, or I'd move from seat to seat. Eighth grade comes along. They call my parents and they're like, hey, Dom's cutting up at school. We don't know what to do. Instead of giving me more attention, what they did is, I don't think they realized, but they blessed me by putting me in the basement of Corona Fundamental with one teacher. And I think I saw her in the audience tonight. Miss Ensley, are you here tonight? This is my 8th grade teacher. I don't think that she realizes the impact that she had. To be able to, we had 2 kids in that class. So they threw me, maybe we were just that bad, I have no idea. But they threw both of us in the basement, and Miss Ensley, with open arms, taught us so much more than just school. So taught us about our history and who we were and what it meant to be a young Black man. So I thank you for that. But in saying that, did any of you guys have Black teachers growing up?
Not until college for me.
Same, not until college.
Got it.
I grew up in Cerritos, Long Beach and Cerritos, and I didn't have any until college.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think me, only when I was younger. I think maybe 1st grade, but yeah, that's about it.
Got it,
I
yeah.
have to correct myself. I had one.
I had one
AP
too.
World history. Okay.
Yeah. That's an interesting dynamic, right? So, but again, teachers, if you guys are in the audience, we appreciate you guys. You guys do great work, so thank you again. The next question is one just like Black history being taught in schools, and And racism being a public health crisis, it's a polarizing question just like those three. A topic that does not, people don't like to talk about. But I want to preface this by saying that when we talk about the next question, we're talking about bad police officers, bad cops. We are not referring to all police officers. Some of my best friends, I got a panelist, a guy that was on the panel this year, Zariah McKnight, he's sitting in the stands. That's my best friend. He's a police officer. Me and Ryan and Z hang out all day long. These are good friends. These are great people. But I think that we too often just, classify all these guys together. And we feel a certain way when they clump us together, right? So I think it's important to be critical of bad police officers. I'm the first person. I'm frontline if a police officer steps out. If anyone if a doctor did some malpractice, I'd be the first one to have an opinion about it, right? But I think it's really important to know that when people talk about the next question we're about to ask, that we're referring to bad cops, right? So the next question is, what are the three biggest challenges to the criminal justice system, and how have those challenges affected our trust in law enforcement? Ryan?
I'll let them go.
So for this one, I'm by no means a subject matter expert at all, but I do have a father in law enforcement and family, and at the same time, they've been very open about their experience and also how they came to be in that field specifically is like a lot of the stories kind of intersect, I think is interesting, where for my dad, it was to make sure that we were provided for, we were taken care of, he had a good job. But the three biggest challenges is the question, I think, I don't want to go too deep into it, but the training and the culture are a really big thing. And that is kind of a nationwide thing. Some forces are better than others at that. And then also public perception as well. And I think it's really difficult to have those conversations with moving forward whenever there is like a public mistrust, a public perception that is so harsh for people who are supposed to be protecting and serving. And I mean, that's up to two different sides of dialogue to kind of get to a place of change, of course. But yeah, so training culture and public perception.
Yeah, and I'll stay with in my business, being a security consultant and dealing with all the forensic side of working with law enforcement, I have a lot of experience and a lot of friends that are in law enforcement, and I thank them for what they do. They're incredible people. For them to be able to put their lives on the line on a regular basis is just incredible to me. I at one time thought I wanted to be a cop until I really saw what they do, so I decided to go on the business side and do a little bit different, play a little safer on my end. So I think, some additional education. I think mental health is something that they deal with out there on a regular basis that they may not always know how to recognize and understand, what that person's going through. So some more awareness on, people with mental health that are out there might, do some, help them out a little bit because they got a tough job. And, more community support. I think it came up earlier, is, for the police officers, I mean, they're human people. And I think they're, for them to, I think we were talking earlier, said nobody would even know you if you weren't in a police officer's uniform. So, they're people too, and for the police officers, like they do, is just more community involvement and letting the community that they work in know that they're people too, and just, they're just trying to protect and serve them what their job is.
Oh, it's my turn?
I've been waiting all day for this, Ryan.
Now, when I think about this question, I think obviously being an officer, right, one of the biggest things is trust, and that's hard to gain, right? That's hard for it's tough to gain people trust, right? And I think that goes back from before I was born, right? Of the different people experiences with law enforcement, what they've been told from family members, people close to them that's gone through certain things, and you start to already have this perception, right, of like, hey, this is what it is. It's us against them. And I think the importance of, especially being a black man and a black police officer, one of my biggest things is getting out there and being human, and talking normal conversation with people. I know we talked about earlier, I was saying, I think one of the biggest importance still is community engagement events. Because at the end of the day, when the police show up, it's for a reason. Why, right? They don't, they don't call the cops, you don't call the cops over when things are good. That's the fire guys back there, so. Yeah, but that's just the reality of it, right? So a lot of times we're always starting from the back end, right? Trying to build rapport, especially with somebody going through a crisis situation. A lot of times it can be a crisis situation with two different people, and one person's fine, but the other person's mad because you have to deal with this person. But it all starts from these community engagements. That's where you build the trust and you build the relationship with the community. Because when we're at these community engagement events, I'm not on duty. So I'm in uniform, right? But I'm talking to you about sports. I'm talking to you about family. I'm talking to you about my kid starting soccer at 4 years old, and we're trying to, human life, right? But from that moment, you're seeing the real me, right? You're seeing a normal person and engaging. And as far as for the black community and law enforcement, I think what's big is we need to join more. And I say that because representation is important, right? Representation is extremely important. And only way we can change things or and help build that trust is for more black people to actually join. And I was that same one. I didn't grow up wanting to be an officer. I had no intentions, didn't even think about it. It wasn't a thing for me. Two of my real good friends, growing up after playing college ball, when I went into pro ball, they stopped playing college ball and went straight into law enforcement. And for me, seeing two people that I grew up with, that's what changed my mindset. I'm like I was surprised that they went into the field of law enforcement, because growing up that wasn't a thing. We didn't talk about that. We didn't. It wasn't a thing. So, but once again, seeing that representation firsthand from from two of my closest friends, that's what changed my mindset of, okay. And once again, I went on a ride along. I encourage people to come on a ride along. Come on a ride along. See what it's like. See what we do out there, right? Because I guarantee you, the perspective is a lot different from inside that vehicle on certain calls than it is just seeing the aftermath of incidents on TV. It's a big difference, right? But you get a different understanding. You get a different appreciation of what we really do out there. But at the end of the day, it's about representation. That's the biggest thing. And the more representation we can get in law enforcement and steady moving up through command staff, right, it helps change, right? Because you have now different people in those rooms, certain conversations. And that's the biggest thing, right? Sometimes you need different views when those big conversations are coming up in those rooms.
Thanks, Ryan. So, on that same note, what do you say? I guess you're encouraging Black people or people of color to apply. I mean, what do you think is the biggest obstacle? Like, why don't we apply? Like, why do we walk by? Why are some of us going to walk by that booth outside and keep walking and not even look at it? Or why some of us might stop and ask questions, but why do I mean, in my opinion, most of us will probably walk by it. What do you think are the obstacles, like, personally?
I think it goes back to representation. I think is being out there, you don't see it. So you don't be like, oh, you don't see enough Black people out there or enough of us. So you feel like, okay, well, maybe it's not me, right? Right. It's the same thing growing up. I'm a sports guy, so I'm gonna bring it back to sports.
Yeah, you see.
Same thing growing up. You have siblings, right, that maybe start playing basketball. Right. You don't think about playing basketball, but you see your older brother playing basketball.
Absolutely.
And now it's like, oh, that's a thing. Oh, I can do that. My brother's playing. Okay, I'm gonna start playing. Or your dad played soccer when he was growing up. My dad played soccer. He watched soccer all the time. He liked soccer. He coached soccer at the high school level. I'm gonna start playing soccer. Once again, representation. Seeing your friends play a sport. Representation. Okay, they're doing it. Oh, it's okay. I can do this. My buddy's doing it. I can do this. Right? It's the same difference, right? That's why when we're out there, that's why, especially with me, that's why when I'm out there, I take time to talk to people, even when I'm on certain calls for services. If I can, I take time to talk to people about life. I get questions asked all the time. Even me being a former athlete, the important thing is former athletes now coming into a law enforcement role, right? It's starting to be a trend, and we keep that a trend.
So the last question of the night: what can the city of Corona do to help Black communities thrive?
I think they're doing it right here by this event, by reaching out and letting, advertising and stuff that they advertise for the Black History Month, and then having, people that are part of the community here on a panel to discuss things and just doing what they're doing. I mean, Corona is a very diverse city. So there's a lot of all different cultures here in Corona, and I think it's a pretty good representation of Corona and what's in this room right now. It's diverse, and I think that's a testament of Corona's doing a good job of reaching out. And, I'd like to thank the city for doing that and continue to reach out to our youth, to, get them involved in more events, more things that shows that, people of color can be successful.
Just to add on to that, I think community-led engagement is really important, and having voices in the room who look like the people who you're trying to target, who you're trying to help is important. And that's kind of what's being done here. And the representation and those components are really important. I also think encouraging local entrepreneurship is a big one. And then also making sure, as we're trying to make improvements to cities, whether it be Corona, but we're retaining the people who live in those neighborhoods. So, we know what data is on certain areas, and whenever we're talking about like making improvements, we want to make sure that those people who grew up there, they have the tools that they need. We're not jumping up the taxes, not that like that's what's being done at all, but it's been done historically, and we know what gentrification is. But just making sure that there's protective things in place to really make sure that your community is diverse and that we continue to grow and have a place where we're looking forward.
I think they both touched on it, right? It's the same thing. It's just that continuous community engagement. The more we do, especially it starts at the youth too, right? Continue getting at the schools. That's where it starts at, right? Because our schools, right? That's our future. Our kids are our future, right? Sometimes the older folks, right? Sometimes it's too late. You can't really,
You look me directly in the
stuck in
eye
their
when you
ways
said
a little
that.
bit. Sometimes that just kind of it's kind of what it is. But I'll tell you one thing. Even with the the older community, not talking about the kids, but when you get to the kids, the kids go home, right? And who got to take the kids to these events? Their parents, you know. So the more events we have, the more we can, you know, get to the schools, get the kids outside of schools to certain events, right? The parents got to come to, right? So, and once again, you're starting a dialogue. And then that's also, right, where, you know, I'm sure we get the law enforcement out there, we get the fire department out there, right? And now, once again, we're all in the same setting, right? Talking about the same things, and just continuing the dialogue. And then you're getting kids, you know, close up with the cop or with the fireman or with the teachers. And now they're seeing like, oh, what? They're talking to this person and be like, hey, I can be you. Yes, you can. You know what I mean? Yes, you can. And you get us, start talking to them, you know, teaching them the way. You know, it's so many different programs, right? So many different programs. So, but those have to continue. But it all starts with, you know, staying within the schools.
Awesome, guys. Well, before we conclude the night, I wanted to invite some friends of ours up really quick. Can I get Ronald Reggie Stewart and Chad Rodriguez Stewart to come up? They are both the owners. There's going to be food outside, guys. When this is over, please go get this food. It's gonna be delicious. Give me a head start. You know, it's gonna take me some time, but let me get there. They own a company called Chef to the Bone. I'm sure. How many of you guys been there already? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just give a round of applause for them. I appreciate you guys for doing that for us. It means the world. And to that, you guys support Black business. Like, it's important. Support these two. Go buy food, take pictures, post it on Instagram. You guys have Instagram? Yes. Okay, there's some famous people in the audience that are gonna tag you guys, okay? Well, I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll give you guys a head start to get things going, and I'm gonna be right over, all right? All right, thanks. The last thing I wanted to, so just don't tell them about how often I go to the restaurant. I just want to.
Thanks for having us. We're so excited to be a part of Corona. Really quickly, we started Chef to the Bone about 6 years ago. 6 years ago, my husband was the executive chef at the Fox Theater in Riverside. I don't know if you guys know where that is, off of University. He cooked for many celebrities, Kevin Hart, Merle Haggard before he passed away, Dancing with the Stars, working hard, and we noticed his gift and said, you know what, we could do this on our own. So we started selling plates literally out of our garage, out of our house to our neighbors during the pandemic. And then we did pop-ups on the weekend and worked our way up to our brick and mortar here in Corona. So thank you guys so much for having us. And Chef Reggie's gonna talk about our menu today and whatever else he wants to add.
First off, I want to say thanks to everybody, all the customers that said they've been already. Thank y'all. Everybody that hasn't been yet, y'all welcome out. We'll get you there with this gumbo we got out here tonight. We got some chicken gumbo out there for y'all. It's real Southern, so y'all enjoy it. Like I say, thank you again to City Corona and everybody that's been supporting us throughout the years and getting us to where we are now at the brick and mortar.
Thank you guys so much. I like the kicks, man. I see you, man. You stepped out tonight. I like those. Hey, really quick, I want to end the night by just giving you guys two facts. These are some things that I wrote down that I think there's some misconceptions that I think society, you know, you hear, hey, if there are more Black fathers in households, right? In my opinion, I think that Black women are some of the most talented people on the planet. And I also think they're the most discriminated people on the planet, right? And so I wanted to share two facts with you guys before we get going. So the first fact is Black women are the most educated demographic in America. I repeat that. Black women are the most educated demographic in America. Black women are disproportionately educated. Black women start more businesses than any other group of women. Black women represent 42% of new women-owned businesses. And yet every dollar a white man makes, a white woman makes 79%, while a black woman makes 62 cents. So the math just ain't mathing, right? So I just want to give a shout out to all of the black women in the audience tonight for what you guys do and some of the things you guys carry and for setting the tone for some of us men. And black fathers, I think often, we hear things that, I hear things that I don't like, if a father was around more, or, hey, black father is not in the household. So I wanted to share a stat by the CDC. The CDC said that 72% of black fathers talk with their children either daily or on the phone in person. And the same report mentions that black fathers are 32% more likely to bathe, do homework, and take care of their kids at the end of the night. So I just want to share that, like black father, it's a real thing. Black dads are extremely present. They're there. They do so much for our community. And then I'm not gonna end the night by leaving out allies, right? There's a bunch of people in the audience tonight that aren't black, right? And so I think I personally just want to challenge you guys tonight essentially, when you guys, I ask you guys a couple of favors. When you guys go home tonight, ask yourself if you guys are amplifiers. Like, when you're driving home, am I an amplifier? Do I amplify the black community? Am I a frontliner? Like, am I going to go on the front line with Dom and the rest of the guys? Or am I a connector? Do I just use my resources to connect people and bring people together to help this community, right? Because I think that every person that's an ally has their own unique way of helping our community, right? Because there is a big difference between knowing black people and having black friends, right? There's a huge difference. And so all I ask is that on your way home, you ask yourself one of those 3 questions, like, what am I? And because we do need you guys, right? We make up an extremely small part of this country, of this city. So we need your guys' help too. We want to work with you guys. Unity is important. That's what tonight is. I appreciate Corona for allowing us to do this. And I'm super grateful for all the panelists and all the dialogue. Kayla, you're amazing. Greg, your insight and wisdom is incredible. And Ryan, I don't know about you, Ryan. No, Ryan, that's my guy. Ryan is awesome too. And I'm thankful for everybody in the stands and everybody out there. So please, let's go get some food and break bread and hang out. All right, thank you guys.